Hey, it's Ray here, and today I wanted to talk to you about should you have a website for your wildlife photography? It's a great question. It sounds like a great idea, doesn't it? Have a customized, just for you version of your portfolio, your best photography, and maybe another way to share things, right? You're in full control and it's personalized for you and your photography. But I think the biggest question is it worth the effort and the work that goes into it for you? Certainly something you're gonna have to answer for yourself, but I think some things to think about to start out with. Why do you want a website? What is the reason? Is it just to have a website? I think if that's the answer, if it's just to have a website, it's probably not worth your time and effort in the long run, because I see a lot of photographers, and I know a lot of photographers who have gone through the effort and expense. It's not too expensive, but there's some expense involved. They go through the time and expense of making and creating a website, and it's fun and exciting, and then it just sits there and never gets updated, never gets changed, and it languishes, nobody visits it, and then it just kind of sits there and you kind of forget about it, and eventually it just kind of fades away. You either stop paying for it, or probably even worse, you just keep paying for it and for no reason. Nobody's going to see it. It's not giving you any benefit for your photography. So that's, I think, the first question you should pose to yourself is, why do I want a website? So some reasons might be to have that full control, right? And take that away from social media. So one of the downsides of social media is we have that huge audience, but it's all algorithmic, right? And so who gets to see it? We don't get to control that. Anybody coming to your website, they're coming there to see you and your photography. So it's a direct connection. Another reason might be to try and make some income, to try and sell some products, some prints or something like that, usually prints. And so again, I urge you to think, is it going to be worth the time and money investment for that sort of thing? It's a great concept. Hey, I'll make a little bit of extra cash just selling some prints. I'll just put a website together and have some people buying prints, right? In my experience, which I'm not the best at buying print or selling prints, I should say, but in my experience, it's not that easy. You have to put a lot more work and effort and time in marketing yourself, getting the word out there to really make any kind of significant money. A lot of people will say, probably to you as well, oh, I'd love to buy that print. And they all want to buy it until they actually have to put out that credit card or give you the cash and actually spend the money. And so it may not be as big a market as you think there. But again, just something to consider. Not saying not to do it, but keep that in mind. Another reason, and I think one of the best reasons, is you might want to share photos differently than most social media allows you to. So for most of us using Instagram and social media websites just like that, we share one photo or maybe a couple of photos, but most of the time it's centered around sharing one photo and one photo alone. Sometimes that doesn't really tell the story of what you want to share, especially if it's a collection of photos that belong together, or maybe an outing that you want to share, and maybe you want to share some text along with it that's more than just the caption there. A website can be a great way to do that with some blog functionality, and you can actually share more long-form stories with photos that go with them and kind of, narrate and curate and that sort of thing. So I think that's another great use of having a website, and probably, like I said, one of the best. One other thing that a lot of photographers want to do is they say, I want to have a website for my portfolio. And I think that's great. It's great that you want to put together a portfolio. It's a wonderful project to do, to kind of narrow down your photos and everything like that. Pick out your best, right? Show the best of what you have to offer. But again, I urge you to think, to what end? So, all right, cool, you have that portfolio. Who do you want to view that portfolio? Why do you want them to view that portfolio? Like, what's the reason for having that portfolio to share with others? Because if it's just to show off your photography to some friends, families, acquaintances, stuff like that, I kind of have to say, I think, in my opinion, the social media does it already for you, And maybe even if you share extra photos there, that's fine. It really is a nice project to kind of narrow down and get your best of in a portfolio. So it can be a fun thing to do, but you can kind of do that on your own and maybe even share that as a separate collection on social media, whether it be an album on Facebook or something like that, or maybe even a series of stories on Instagram, or just a series of posts on Instagram, kind of encapsulating, hey, these are my favorites from my last year. And you can do that whenever, right? It doesn't always have to be at that year-end kind of thing. So those are some of the main reasons I can think of. And of course, there are other legitimate reasons to create your own website. But the main thing I want to get across is just think about the time and effort that's going to go into it, because trust me, it's going to be a lot more time and effort than you very likely think if you've never done a website before. It can be very rewarding, and so I think worth going for it if you have a valid reason to do it. And honestly, in the end, if it's, hey, I just want to try it and see what it's like, I want to have that as a project to do, nothing wrong with that. Certainly go for it. You've decided to do that website. How do you go about doing it? There's a few options. Most of us don't know how to do coding, web coding and web design. At least I don't, and I have very basic knowledge of it. And so that leaves out doing a completely custom website. So you kind of have to settle on using one of the template websites, which I think are great. My suggestion there is simply look into it, do a little bit of research into different template websites and maybe some other photographers who have used those template companies before to see how easy it is to customize it. Because I think in the end, what we talked about in the first place is you want to have a website to have your own personalized presence on the web with your photography. You want it to be custom for you. And so if you just use a template website and just change a couple of colors, it's probably not going to look that custom. If you use a template website and make some significant changes to it to make it fit your style and your photography, to make it really fit in seamlessly there, then it can be, even though it's a template, more customized to you. And that's what I've done with my website. If you've ever been to my website, you've seen it looks pretty different than most other photographers' websites. I've worked pretty hard on trying to get it customized, but I'm still using a template website. I love and use Squarespace. I've been using them for a very long time. So I highly recommend checking them out. They have a lot of great templates, and it starts out with an easy way to customize your stuff. The photography looks very good on it. But there's a ton of other services out there that do similar or the same thing in their own way. So find one that fits you and works for you. I highly recommend using those types of sites unless you are really good and know how to code a website, in which case you're probably not even watching this video because you already know what you're doing and you've made a decision to make the website for your photography, which is great. So if you're one of those people, good for you. Have at it, make a really awesome custom website. For the rest of us that don't really know what we're doing there, or even if you're like me, you know, just enough to kind of fumble your way through it. I've tried doing that. I've done it in the past for some of my wedding photography websites and stuff where I ran my own WordPress blog and tried to customize it myself. And in the end, I got it looking decent, but it never looked great. And then anytime there was an update or new phones and new iPads and stuff like that, the format didn't fit and things would break and I'd have to fumble around, these bugs. I'd have to fumble around and try and fix it. It was always like a hassle in the back end, just trying to keep things up and running properly and looking their best. And in the end, they often didn't look great on all devices until I switched to a company like Squarespace that takes care of all that back end stuff for you. So it looks great on all devices and all you have to do is worry about the layout, the design, and your photography. All right, so that's my thoughts. Just wanted to share that with you guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.